go ahead and get this started now. It's April the 21st. About 9 o'clock at night. And we're getting ready for the third build in this year's contest, unless I lost track of one somewhere. This time, starting from the ground up with the Moebius original series Battlestar Galactica. Going to be going mostly straight out of the box with her. She's got gorgeous detail. Several reviews have already been done of her on the net, so I'm not going to do an in-depth review of it. The detail on this one is far and away better than the old Revell monogram kit. Of course, now I'm going to get it back in the box. Not that it matters, because I'm going to be building it soon. Instructions are pretty straightforward. It's designed to be built in sub-assemblies. They've even included on the sides of the box matte paintings you can use to simulate the interior of the flight bays. I'm not planning on lighting this, so I may just go with those. Like I said, construction's really straightforward, designed to go in sub-assemblies. The keel is far more accurate than on the Revell kit, mostly because this section here actually will be hollow up to the bottom, whereas it was filled on the Revell kit. Sorry, monogram kit, because that's what it actually started out as. But like I said, the instructions are really straightforward. Got some nice tips on how to paint her up. Some nice views for marking her. The decal sheet comes with a number of different battle stars. This one I'm going to go ahead and build as the Galactica. The one that's currently hanging from my ceiling, which I'll probably bring down during this, more likely at the end, is likely going to wind up the Pegasus, leaving this as the Galactica. But we'll play that by ear when the time comes. Alright, in a update that didn't really surprise me much, I already have, after probably not much more than an hour and a half of actual work, I have the head section of the Galactica assembled. The seams virtually disappear. In fact, some of this practically snapped into place. It had to be snapped into place because of the tolerances in the corners. But all in all, I mean, they have done their level best to hide most of the seams in here along what would normally be lines of the model. Eventually I've got to bring down the older version of this and compare it. But right now, looks like I put that one on upside down. I better fix that while I still can. Yay, I can still take it off. There we go. Oh, that looks a lot better. I'll touch that up with some more of the Tamiya Thin in a bit. Yeah, probably better do that now. Realized I had it on upside down. Ain't good. Brush on some Tamiya Thin there. This time make sure we've got her right side up and everything lines up. There we go. The head of the Battlestar Galactica. Alright, continuing work on the Whirlwind Galactica build. I now have steps 2 and 3 finished. Step 2 is the middle section of the ship, and the arms, top and bottom. The tops were actually part of the top piece. The bottoms are separate, as are the sides. The interior side on these, and then you've got a complete bulkhead here. Not too worried about this seam showing, because that's where the main engines are going to insert. Same goes for the seam around here, because that's where the head will insert. Only had to fight a couple of the pieces into place, and part of that was because of exterior detail on the middle plate. The spine, for lack of a better term, goes together fairly well. Now, ironically, I did have a problem with the seam up here, but I'm going to be honest. That seam is actually virtually invisible once you put her into place, because it's actually up in here. Now, I'm not going to press fit that in because I'm liable to not be able to get it out. The head slides in. It's a fairly solid fit. And then, of course, the spine goes up underneath like so. It's going to be an impressively sized kit, really. But at this point I've got, as far as raw construction goes, I've got the main engines. Whoop, I just moved myself off camera. I've got the main engines and the flight pods to do. And that's basically it. It's going to be a very quick build. I'll be probably ready for paint late Sunday afternoon. It's Friday night right now. We'll see how tomorrow goes. But right now, I'm figuring I'll be ready for paint quick. And we are back at it, working on the Galactica. I have the engine module itself done. I have not glued the back piece in yet, so I can put the clear piece that Moebius supplied over this and paint it without having to worry about trying to mask it off, because you can see how deep these holes are. And it actually does press insert fairly well. There won't be much of a seam there once it's fully assembled. But it'll also allow for me to show the engine glow back there without worrying about deep masking. Now, on the landing bays, the landing bays are essentially hollow open. Unlike the new series Galactica, it is not open on both ends. The front end of each landing bay is actually closed off, meaning you don't have to detail a through deck. So what Moebius has done is taken kind of a cue from the original Galactica, actually, and created, I don't know how well that's showing up, matte paintings to go inside the landing bays. Now what I've gone and done is taken some of the Vallejo dark gray primer and painted the bare plastic to better enhance the illusion. got some Elmer's white glue back here drying. Each landing bay consists of a top and a bottom, the nose cap, and 2 side pieces. One of the cool things, and I don't know how well it's going to show here, on these landing bay pieces, see how close we can get, is it actually has divots for the launch tubes. And I would point out, unlike on the old Monogram Galactica, they're pointing in the right direction. Definitely going to have raw construction done by the end of the day without too much worry. I'm going to let the paint dry inside the flight pods and give it another coat. Then I'll get the flight pods built. Oh, while I'm thinking about it, on the instructions here for the starboard flight pod, they've got your part numbers swapped. The inner wall on the starboard flight pod is actually part 17. So just something to watch for. It'll become rather obvious when you go to put it in because the sidewall is notched for a piece here on the inner wall. But that was something I came across last night when I was starting to work on this, and I figured I'd better share. Alright, at this point, flight bays are done, as far as their assembly goes anyway. You can't really see the matte painting inside, not that I really expected to be able to. Now, one thing I like about the way they engineered this is that notch takes the cross piece here from the keel assembly, so it'll brace there. But the way they've set this up is they don't actually want you to glue that until you put the flight pods into place on the braces. And they've got nice hefty pin locations matching up to ones down here on the main hull. In the end, it'll all, let me get this correct here. Whoop, got it backwards. That could be bad. But it'll all, yeah, I got it right there. It'll all match up down there. And by not gluing this in yet, you can get the braces into place. But yeah, next time you guys see this thing, final assembly will have been finished. Okay, as promised, final assembly of the Galactica has been completed. I've still got a few little seams to deal with, mostly along the junctions where the pylons go to the flight pods. This whole coffin assembly, yeah, leave these loose when you go to pop it on, and literally it will pop into place. I mean, it was all press fit. The trick was getting the pins to line up to the holes in the flight pods, but you got one very, very tight assembly here. She's a pretty good size model. But now, except for a little bit of seam fill, she's ready for primer. One drawback I've noticed, you can't really see the matte paintings that are inside the flight pods. I don't see that as being too big an issue though. Let's face it, at this scale, that wouldn't really show that much anyway. She's pretty stable on the stand. It does take a little pressure to get her in. The hole in the stand itself is fairly large, so she'll float on it pretty easy. Myself, I'm probably not going to have her on the stand. I'll probably hang her once the time comes. But, as promised, there she is in all of her currently ivory colored glory. Next up, primer.